We must not kowtow to others in our attempts to prevent this. It's almost impossible to gauge their true numbers, but in December 2014, the CIA believed that ISIS could muster between 20,000 and 31,500 fighters between Iraq and Syria, and their ranks continue to swell as extremists flock from around the world. I'll never forget the first time I faced ISIS. The first time I saw their black flags fluttering in the dry heat. And the first time I saw their men pacing up and down just 50 meters away, laughing, playing, and goading us. There they were on the other side of a bridge that marked the front line between us and them, which marked the unfathomable gap between right and wrong, good and evil. There was confidence in their steps, and I could hear them laughing. They brandished their weapons, put their arms around each other, and waved at us. They were better armed, better prepared, and better funded than the soldiers we were with, and they knew it. They were eager to fight, hoping to die, and they hid behind nothing, while at the same time the company of Kurdish troops which was crouched beside me hid low behind sandbanks, peeking out, hoping for the best, and praying to be saved. It was this confidence that really struck me, and which they exhibit to this day. Their soldiers, versus those they face, are so full of zeal, so eager to kill, so sure of themselves, that it put fear into the hearts of their enemies. It's their sheer belief that is so terrifying to others. But despite their brutality and strength, they can be beaten. Photographer Rick Findler and I have covered conflicts in the region for 6 years, moving, as others have, from conflict to conflict, watching revolutions intended to usher in freedom be hijacked as a far greater evil takes hold. I remember the sheer joy of fighters in Libya as they freed their cities and reclaimed their country, prisoners being freed and families reunited. I remember the early days of the Syrian Revolution, when people believed they were shaking off their dictator, and cheered in the streets, and in Egypt, where Tahrir Square symbolized a new democracy, one which would define the region. But today, all that hope has gone, and the Middle East is faced with a greater enemy than before, one intent on spreading its web, and which is doing so successfully. The story of ISIS is not just about vicious jihadists, or about Syria or Iraq or the Middle East. It's about a whole generation of chaos, a whole region in turmoil, and a whole world at threat. It is a problem that will define the Middle East, and in turn the West, for decades, and it is one that must be addressed now. This audiobook will take you behind the scenes, inside their cities, training camps, and prisons. It will recount the battles which defined their rise, the recruitment process, the propaganda arm, the money, and the politics. It will take you inside their world. In many respects, this chaos was inevitable. So many different groups and countries in the region had their own agendas, and so many were intent on the destruction of others for religious and political reasons. Yet these internal divisions also create hatred toward the West, and are something we must deal with, that we should have been dealing with. But things have been made worse by the apparent apathy of the Obama administration. Obama's policy of strategic disengagement has led the Middle East to a tipping point, and unless something is done soon, this threat will define a generation. It may be too late. So many opportunities have been missed, yet we must act now. This is Al-Qaeda 2.0, more powerful and more brutal. It is quite simply mind-boggling that the conditions ISIS needed to thrive occurred at precisely the right time, in precisely the right place, aligning all the stars. And what it has grown into is not just an army that can be defeated on the battlefield. It is an ideology.